Meyer, founder and CEO of Amazon solutions provider Envision Horizon.
And I'm Todd Pachowski, Director of Performance Marketing at Envision Horizons. We've teamed up to make the Common Mistakes podcast.
Todd and I meet with business owners, leaders, and investors to discuss common mistakes and other business experiences they've learned from. Tune in every other Tuesday for your dose of business advice. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Common Mistakes, where we discuss mistakes we've made, we've seen, so you don't have to learn the hard way. I'm Laura Meyer.
And I'm Todd Pachowski. Today we have Lesley Hensell. Lesley's the co-founder of Riverbend Consulting and has 10 plus years experience selling on Amazon and serving Amazon sellers. She currently oversees Riverbend's client service team and has personally helped hundreds of third-party sellers get their suspended Amazon accounts and ASINs back up and running. Vitally important service. Lesley leverages 2 decades as a small business consultant to solve underlying business issues in online retail businesses, resulting in improved operations and profitability. Lesley, thanks so much for coming on our podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. This will be fun.
Yes, Lesley, I admire what your business does so much because I can only imagine the stress and the pressure that some of these brands you work with are under. And I know even from our own point of view, sometimes that stress and pressure can bubble over in conversations. And, you seem like a very calm, cool, and collected person. And I'm sure you have to bring that energy sometimes to your clients.
Absolutely. I talk a lot about how I'm the mom. So, the mom tries to calm the person down. Everything's going to be okay. What are our next steps? Because a lot of the clients that I talk to, they're in bad shape personally. They're very upset. Some are at risk of losing their business. I've had people who've had to fire family members. They've been at risk of losing their house. It is very hard when everything's collapsing in on you because your Amazon account is shut down. So yes, I try and bring that it's going to be all right calmness so that they can focus on the problem instead of the emotion.
Yeah, amazing. So I always like to start off the conversations with my go-to question, which is, when you reflect upon your career, what is the biggest mistake, or at least a mistake that really stands out to you, that today you're so grateful for because you learned from it and it's helped you become who you are today?
So I have a tendency to try to do too much. And I do too many things at one time, and then you're not really performing on any of them. Right. And so my big mistake that I made is actually from a personal thing. I had a kid who was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma when he was 8 years old. And I should have quit my job. I should have quit my job right then and just focused on him. And instead, we were in the hospital getting chemotherapy. And while he's asleep at night, between the times that I'm like getting him up to go to the bathroom and puke, I'm typing. I'm emailing people. I'm trying because I felt like I couldn't let it go. What am I doing if I let all this hard work that I've invested go? And I should have just either taken a pause and said, I can't do this for 6 months, or just flat out quit. And now I'm so grateful that I went through that because number one, I know how much I can handle because I was doing a lot. I was doing too much, but I'm now looking back, I'm like, that was crazy. You can handle stuff. And then number two, I've been much better about figuring out sometimes in life you focus on one thing, just one thing. And by focusing on one thing, I think I've had so much more success personally and in my business by choosing and saying, are you putting the people that matter second? Are you putting your mental health second? I don't think my kids suffered any from me doing that. It was more just my own physical and mental health. And I don't want that to happen again.
Yeah. Wow. And what a heavy time in your life. And I mean, I'm a mother myself. I can't imagine what that was like for you.
Well, and fortunately, we were the luckiest, most blessed people on the oncology floor. We had caught it early. He did 7 months of treatment. Now he is 14 years old, but 6'1", 235 pounds of football player.
Oh, wow.
Super healthy. And we invest a lot as a family helping charities that focus on children's cancer, which I think is a much better use of my time and energy than some of the mindless things I used to spend time and energy on, right? So if we're not working on business, we're trying to do something to help other people. Honestly, I know it sounds so Pollyanna. I sound like Mary Poppins or something, y'all, but really when you go through bad stuff, you can choose to say, how can I help other people now? And we've done that, and it's made me a much nicer human than I used to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, those are definitely life altering and life perspective moments, right? And actually, your example here reminds me of a concept that a friend actually brought to me a few years ago when, I was just overwhelmed with some other things in my life. And it's the 4-burner concept. Have you heard of this?
I haven't.
So it's all about work-life balance, and the metaphor of it is, you have a stovetop and you have the 4 burners, and as a person, we only have so much gas. And the 4 burners in life is, family, friends, health, and then work. When you're really focused on one burner, you obviously have to take gas or take energy from another one of those burners. And that, in life, it's basically impossible to have all 4 of those well balanced, but it's about acknowledging that you are spending more energy on one part of your life, and sometimes you have to switch that energy over as needed.
That is such a great analogy, and one that I think people in our space need to hear, because folks I know who are entrepreneurs who sell online, e-commerce folks, private label people, brand owners, even at big companies, it's like an obsession. You can get so drawn in where you're checking Seller Central and checking your eBay interface and checking, whatever it is, wherever you sell, constantly looking for your sales and trends, and all that's important, but it becomes life instead of work, right? It becomes like the 1 burner.
Yeah, well, it's those endorphin hits, right? Where you almost build the addiction of looking at your Seller Central sales versus Facebook or Instagram or some other hit to the brain.
That's so true.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So Lesley, I would love to go into more about what Riverbend does and what are some of the common reasons sellers are reaching out to you for help.
The number one reason that people come to us is because their account or their ASINs were suspended from Amazon. So we have other services and things that we help with, like listing optimization and product videos and VA services and reimbursements. But really, if you call me and you sign up today, it's because your account went down or your big ASIN isn't performing anymore. So stressed out people call us. We're like the emergency room for Amazon.
Well, if our accounts are indicative of what happens to most accounts, then I imagine you are pretty busy with accounts being taken down, listings being taken down, random reasons for Amazon suspending listings.
Well, and it's so funny because Amazon just rolled out an initiative that's like a kinder, gentler Amazon for seller performance. And, they do this every couple of years where something rolls out and people contact me and say, aren't you afraid your business won't exist anymore? No, Amazon risk management is always Amazon risk management, and they have to be aggressive. They have no choice. There are false positives. There are times when people are unfairly enforced against, but the very nature of e-commerce, they cannot let bad actors sell, and they can't let people who look like bad actors sell, even if they're not, right? So it's always going to be part of e-commerce, unpleasant as it is for everybody on all sides.
So how do sellers or brands who are selling on Amazon, how do they take the offensive? How do they make sure they're not getting into the bad graces of Amazon? And I know there's a lot of different ways you could probably do it, but I don't know, if we hone in into, let's say, account health, what should a seller be doing or not doing or looking at in order to maintain strong health when it comes to Amazon's graces?
The 2 most common challenges for sellers, especially when you're looking at that account health screen, are product quality and intellectual property issues. So product quality is the basis for almost all ASIN suspensions. They're complaining because they didn't get what they thought they were going to get. They're complaining because a lot of times it's really about packaging. It's about things being opened or looking like they're damaged, whether that's because you did a bad job merchant fulfilled shipping, your 3PL screwed it up, or Amazon FBA messed it up. Doesn't really matter who did it. They're getting stuff that doesn't look right. So that's really the number one thing that over time will get you in trouble, especially if you're the small to mid-sized seller. And then next is intellectual property complaints. There is so much confusion about IP because of the way Amazon enforces. It's very upsetting when you're selling something that's legit and you get some trademark complaint or a copyright complaint, and you're selling the right product, right? But the fact is, Amazon doesn't have a choice on these. If someone goes in and says in brand registry that Todd is violating my intellectual property, Amazon has to do something about it. Under the law, they have no choice because this person swore to it that you were violating their intellectual property. And then you've got to go through the rigmarole to get stuff back up. So around that, it's really important that you know your suppliers well. They're going to work with you. You know the brands that you're selling, if at all possible, and you have great invoices and records to prove that the products are what they are.
Should the brand, if that does happen to them, where it's a false flag for some reason, can they go about and fight this themselves? Or, I mean, I know we have some insider or internal ways that we would handle this. What would you recommend to a brand that's dealing with a situation?
So it depends on the type of complaint. If someone moves into the patent realm, complaining that you're violating their patent, you need to engage an attorney pretty quickly. So whoever that attorney was that helped you with your IP, with your trademark registration or your patents, you need to reach out to them because patent issues are very difficult and they're extremely difficult to overcome with Amazon without a lawyer's opinion letter, as well as the magic work that my team does. We actually need both to overcome, like on design patent, we need us and the lawyers, which is frustrating. But for regular things like trademark infringement, copyright infringement, a lot of times the brand can handle that themselves, reaching out to the complainant and working with them directly. And if they don't play ball, providing evidence directly to Amazon.
Has the Apex program, have you seen that be a successful option for brands that are dealing with patent issues or copycats or anything like that?
So I've had limited interaction with Apex. I will tell you the attorneys involved in the program are good attorneys, right?
Awesome.
These are people who know what they're doing to get approved. Does it go any faster? Maybe, but the complainant can still refuse to play ball. And that's when these things drag out. Sometimes people who complain don't really have a valid complaint. They're just trying to keep you off the platform as long as they can so that they can sell the inventory you can't, right? So even if Apex is involved, nobody can force them to not slow walk everything.
That just reminds me of politics, right? keep talking so nothing actually gets done.
And slow walking is a strategy. I mean, it's just like when you see criminal defendants who slow walk a case, right? Their attorneys file for continuance after continuance after continuance because they know they did it, and they're just trying to hope that witnesses die or get disinterested or whatever. It's the exact same thing. Slow walking is a real strategy in the legal world.
And so what are some mistakes you've seen of businesses, when they do get suspended, that just puts them deeper in the hole? Because I would say from my personal experience, I've seen if they just keep replying to the case, not adding what Amazon is asking, but just saying that Amazon is wrong. I have a suspicion that Amazon then just puts that into the black hole of nowhere because they never hear back again.
I love this question so much because number one, you're absolutely right, Laura. You are dead on. When you just say, this isn't my fault, this is Amazon's fault over and over, you're just digging the hole deeper. And there's no magic number of times that they will reply to you or won't. But let's face it, at some point, they're going to put you in the circular file because you're not being responsive and you're not being helpful. And whether you believe you deserve the suspension or not, their data says you do. So you better work with them to figure that out. So another thing people do is they will respond and say, what did I do wrong? No, see, Amazon says, this is your business. You tell us what you did wrong. In fact, when they ask for a plan of action, the first part of the plan of action is the root cause, meaning what you did wrong. And so if your response is, what did I do wrong? They think that you take no responsibility. And which is a third thing. Blaming Amazon's really bad, but a lot of people just don't take responsibility in general, right? They blame someone else. They blame their supplier, their employee, their contractor, their VA. Well, you hired all those people. You bought from that supplier. So you should at least take responsibility and say, I didn't supervise them well, or I hired the wrong people. Obviously, there's always something you can cop to, even if you didn't do it. There's always a way to say, I could have done better, because really, isn't there always a way you could have done better? So yes, being non-responsive and blaming Amazon, not taking responsibility, those are the three big ones.
I think that's a very important point you just called out, Lesley, and we've seen success with when it comes to plan of actions and getting reinstated. It's really admitting responsibility. As you said, there's a way you can find that you did do something wrong, even if you're 100% think you're in the right. Amazon likes to see that you're calling responsibility on yourself and your business, and that you're going to improve things going forward. So wanted to just reiterate that point.
Well, and can I give you a quick example? Because here's a perfect example of where it's Amazon's fault, but you can cop to it. And this is actually something that's useful for a lot of people. So we all know Amazon's FBA returns grading is bad. It's bad. This is where people return an item they didn't want. It goes to the fulfillment center, and there's a team of people who sort these, and they're supposed to put them in fulfillable and unfulfillable. Well, my clients who sell hair appliances that are resold with hair in them, and coffee machines that are resold with moldy coffee grounds in them, can attest to you that Amazon's returns grading is very poor. So you can say, hey, this wasn't you sold as new. This wasn't a condition issue. This is FBA. They screwed up. That's true. What could you have done better? Okay, what if you put seals on the box, top and bottom, that said, if seal is broken, item is not new. Now, you're not putting that on there for the buyer. You're putting that on there for the returns grading person at Amazon, so that when they see the seal is broken, they're like, oh, they're saying it's not new. Unfulfillable, right? So there are things you can do better, even if it's not your fault. And that's the way you take responsibility without feeling like you're eating your own soul by saying, I did it, when you didn't.
Yeah, that's a great example of a way to solve that issue, even though technically we together in this conversation, we can blame FBA, but we know, that's not going to solve the reinstatement.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many ways to blame FBA, y'all. I could do it all day.
So could I. I'd love to ask a couple questions about like gray hat-ish topics. So, it's not in the policies to say explicitly that you can't put product inserts. Maybe it's in there. I don't know. I'm just an example. Where do you stand if it isn't spelled out explicitly in terms of service? Because Amazon does like to be pretty vague when it comes to some policies. Do you say that most brands should just err on the side of white hat?
I do, and I'll tell you why. Most of the things you're talking about that are the gray area are around platform manipulation and review manipulation, because they aren't explicit all the time. And in fact, they even have conflicting information in help, where they say you can ask for this and then you can't ask for this. It's very confusing. But if you're a brand, you've invested in your brand. And when it comes to platform manipulation and review manipulation, it is 2 strikes and you're out. That's it. And there is no coming back. And I don't care who you are. unless they change that policy in the future, because used to, you could keep coming back from it, and then they changed it to where 2 strikes you're out. So an example, I knew a brand that they were asking for reviews in ways you can't. They were cherry picking from people who gave positive product or positive store feedback to get a product review. They were asking for 5-star reviews. They were doing all the things you aren't supposed to. So they got suspended. They said, we'll never do it again. Then one of their employees asked friends and families for reviews. Now, we all know that the brand did not tell this guy to do it. He was responsible for this one product and he wanted more positive reviews. You're shut down because of what this one guy did, because you already had a big strike that you admitted you did the things, because you did. I mean, they know you did it. Admitting it doesn't matter. They know you did it. So do you really want to put your brand at risk of being gone forever? Because sometimes these dumb things do happen where someone you're associated with, or what if you had a competitor who set up a Facebook group and gave away free product and offered free product or rebates if someone reviews your product because they want to get you shut down? That happens. That's one of your strikes. What if you already have a strike? So it's just too dangerous on anything platform or review manipulation, because really, if 2 strikes, well, if one of those is someone else acting against you, you're in trouble really fast.
There has to be crazy lawsuit examples about this, right? Where these little mistakes, couldn't, in the example you shared of the one employee, is it possible for the company to then sue that employee or have some type of insurance claim against that?
That's a great question. How much are you really going to get out of one employee?
Well, right. Well, or what I'm more so thinking about is the other companies that are doing these Facebook groups, because that's truly malicious, but how do you prove it? The internet gets so slimy and crazy so quickly.
Well, and that's the problem, is how do you prove it? We have seen stuff, Laura, that would blow your mind. There are things that I would not think possible that are done, that are black hat. And so an example, I've got clients who show me texts that they've received that say, I am in Russia. My name Boris. Give me 5 Bitcoin. We will stop attacking your listings.
Yeah.
Or
we've seen that too.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And then prove who Boris is and who hired him. And then he'll say, give me 7 Bitcoin. I tell you who my employer is. I mean, it's insane. And people think that's not real. Oh, so yeah, I'm glad you've seen it too. So you're not like, she crazy, because it happens a lot. Yeah.
I had a client a few weeks ago who forwarded me this whole email chain from someone we assume is, overseas, who basically says you basically have to pay me, otherwise I'm going to pay people to leave negative reviews on all of your products.
Right. And what's even trickier, they'll pay people to put positive reviews on all of your products, hundreds of them over a weekend. And then you get suspended for review manipulation, because why would you get hundreds of reviews over one weekend on your products? So that's even sneakier. But yeah, there's a lot of them in Russia and the Ukraine, because there's nothing, I mean, how are you going to find them or do anything about it?
So how does a brand prevent this? How do they fight this?
So my number one piece of advice is don't sell in supplements. Supplements is like the breeding ground for this stuff, y'all. I have seen more dirty attacks in supplements than all the other categories combined, and I am not exaggerating. So we work on any category. We don't care what it is. Supplements has 10 times this kind of behavior as all the other categories. Why that is, I do not really truly understand. Maybe it's the high margins, I don't know, but it's all over the place. You can't really prevent it, but what you can do, you've got to monitor your reviews really carefully. You need to also monitor your returns report, and I'll tell you why. Another thing these people do is they will place fake orders that go to Amazon lockers, and then they get sent back because they're not picked up. that can be perceived as a platform review, a platform manipulation, like you're trying to boost your bestseller rank, right? And that'll be put on you. So you've got to monitor that returns report to see if you end up with an outsized number of undeliverable returns. And you can look and see that they're lockers. If that happens, or you have a bunch of reviews come in, you do need to proactively reach out to Amazon and say something hinky has happened on my account, and I'm really concerned about it, and this isn't us. Can you work with us? So there's an email address for the reviews thing. It's called communities plural at amazon.com. They will help with the weird reviews issue. And then on the Amazon locker and other fake orders, that you go to seller support and you ask them to escalate it to the captive team, because you've got to be on top of that. If you raise the flag before they do, they're a lot less likely to assume you're the bad guy.
It's a crazy world we play in, isn't it?
It really is.
You know, that reminds me, wasn't it a couple of years ago where they were sending actual packages to people's houses? So I didn't hear about the lockers thing, but that makes sense too.
Yes, the lockers thing is cheaper because they get refunded for non-deliverable items. But yes, and remember the big seeds thing? People were getting seeds delivered to them. There's so many weird ways people play on the platform. There's also a lot of money laundering on the platform, which is what some of this weirdness is for. There's money laundering on every platform. This isn't unique to Amazon. They just have more than everyone else because they're bigger. So the reason I even mention it is that is one of the mechanisms, one of the reasons that Amazon has to be aggressive with seller performance, because they cannot allow money laundering and other criminal activity.
Yeah, of course. We have limited time, but there are some other things on the agenda I wanted to kind of touch on. There's one note we had around a mistake of selling liquidation inventory. And I don't actually know where this is going to go. I have an idea, but would love to hear what the mistake is there.
There are two general problems with selling liquidation. One is that usually it's older, it's been moved around a lot physically. It's been moved from place to place. So the packaging has become damaged or even faded from too much sunlight. And it can also be older packaging. So if it's really old packaging, people will say, this isn't the right thing. I bought this last month and the packaging was purple and now it's blue, right? So then because of the condition of the goods, you get inauthentic complaints and condition complaints. So Amazon says, hey, Todd, send me your invoices. And you send them liquidation invoices, which are usually not good invoices. They are from liquidators, which Amazon assumes that all of that isn't authentic inventory, or God forbid, it just says pallet, or it says truckload, or something like that, where there's no detail at all. So you cannot prove even that you bought those products individually. So those get rejected really fast, and they'll suspend your account, and you have to beg and plead to get back up and say you will never sell liquidation again. I know the margins are super attractive. The problem is it's not sustainable over time. Eventually it catches you.
Got it. Okay. So you're talking about actually purchasing liquidation inventory and selling that, and that's not the best idea given those reasons.
Even if it comes from the Amazon warehouse. So a lot of people think, I can just buy Amazon liquidation. It'll be awesome. Same problem. You can't prove it's authentic because who sent it to the Amazon warehouse, right? Was it another third-party seller? You have no provenance, chain of custody. So it's always shocking to people, and I understand why, when their Amazon invoices are rejected, but it does happen.
So one thing I wanted to touch on today, if you don't mind, is talking about not so much compliance and account health and reinstatements and suspensions, but a service offering I think that Riverbend offers, which is around editorials. How does that process work at Riverbend? Not every agency kind of offers this. What are you guys doing on that front?
So editorial recommendations can be pretty exciting because you end up on the first page of search. That's really the goal, is always to be on the first page of search. And what we found is if you combine an editorial recommendation with solid PPC and then really good Amazon SEO, if you will, where you're performing well on the A9. If you have all three of those together, you can actually end up on the first page of search 2 or 3 times, and that will increase your conversions dramatically. So what we do is clients come to us, they tell us the ASIN that they want to have in editorial recommendations and their preferred keywords for that ASIN, because Amazon does use keywords for all of this. And we submit that to the editorial process. There's a lot of magazines out there that will write like a little mini profile of your product and submit it to Amazon. Amazon moderates it, and then it finally lands on the site. So it really, the time frame kind of depends on how saturated the keywords are. But for the ones that land around holiday periods, it can be pretty exciting.
Are you using internal software to track those placements, or do you have a recommendation on any software that's tracking that? I had experience with, I think it was sellzone.com, which was one of the very few that actually tracked editorials per keyword. So I didn't know if you had something in particular the agency was using.
Right. So for our clients who have editorial recommendations, we give them a login, and there's reporting where it shows the attributed sales. What's exciting about editorial recommendations is, unlike PPC, you're not paying per click or impression, you're paying for actual attributed sales. So the software does show, like, purchase by purchase what is attributed to prove that it was worth it for you to have this editorial recommendation and why you should pay the fees.
To close, I guess, to close out the conversation today, you've obviously seen hundreds of brands on Amazon, and I would be curious, like, what are some of the things that you've seen for the brands that really thrive and successful? Like, what is it that they're doing versus some of the other brands that either get suspended or just, quite frankly, fall off the platform?
So that's a great question. There's a few things. One is to have a great delivery, product quality, packaging experience. I think everyone has memorable products that they've received in the mail or from the UPS guy, right? That the unboxing experience, if you will, was a positive thing, or that you really feel like the brand knows you as a person or as a demographic because of the way the product's presented. There's a really big difference between getting let's go back to supplements, between getting a supplement that's just a bottle and getting one that is in a nice box, and you open it, there's actual usage instructions, and you feel like they actually care about the shape that it's in when it gets to you, right? Same thing for clothing. There's clothing that comes wadded up in a plastic bag, and there are things that are nicely folded, still have tags. It just feels much better. So I think having that experience is a way to build some brand loyalty, and also the right packaging makes sure that you're not getting returns because stuff is damaged by Amazon or anyone else. Another thing that we're working on that's really fun, that we're seeing some brands have some great success with, is we're helping some Amazon only brands get into retail stores. And there are so many reasons that this is a positive. One is that it changes your cash flow picture, because when you get paid by a retailer, it's not onesie twosie being paid like on Amazon, where you send the inventory and you're essentially being paid back one order at a time, right? So it changes your cash flow. It also can improve your brand equity so much because people see it on a shelf, they get familiar with it, and who cares if they scan it and then buy it on Amazon? We all know that happens, right? In stores. I do it all the time. Who cares if they do that? They're still seeing your brand and buying your product. And I think the third thing for brands really is, just because you're online, it doesn't mean you should only have one product. You need a family of products, and that family of products provides a lot more value over time and opportunity for you over time, if you choose wisely and build slowly and cautiously, shall we say.
Well, Lesley, thank you so much for the conversation today. There's been a ton of awesome tips here. I think we all can learn from just being a little bit more proactive, responsive, and responsible when it comes to our Amazon business. So I'm going to leave this now with just a second for you. Where can people reach you? How can they find you? What's the best way to do that?
So you can find us on our website. It's riverbendconsulting.com. The really exciting part is we have a phone number and we actually answer the phone. And I know these days that's like crazy, right? But we have people who answer the phones. And because most people are in a complex situation, we've got folks who will sit and talk to you and discuss it and see if there's a strategy where we can help, instead of just, saying, oh yeah, give us the money. We really want to solve the problem. And then secondly, if you head on over to LinkedIn and search for Lesley Hensell, I have hot, fresh, new Amazon content almost every day of the week.
It really does sound like you are the emergency room or the quick MD for when Amazon issues are happening. I love that you still have a phone number available.
Isn't that funny that it's so rare these days that you can actually get someone on the phone? But I really think it helps people to feel more comfortable too, that there's real humans and we actually care and we really want to solve the problem.
For sure. Well, awesome. Well, thank you again for joining. It's been a pleasure. And we hope to catch up with you again in, say, a year or so and see what else is new in the Amazon compliance and Amazon ecosystem.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Todd and Laura.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Common Mistakes. If you're not yet subscribed, be sure to follow us and visit envisionhorizons.com to sign up for our weekly newsletter with all the latest Amazon news and expert advice. For Amazon sellers looking for more support, check out our Amazon brand management platform, My Horizons, and sign up for a free trial. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Common Mistakes.